We live in a world that constantly asks us to do more, achieve more, and hold everything together. It's no wonder so many of us feel overwhelmed. But that overwhelm isn't just about having too much to do. It can also be a sign that we've become disconnected from ourselves. I'm your host, Enza Richards, and welcome to the Power of Calm. Today, I'm joined once again by my friend and colleague, Tansi, founder and president of Counterbalance Consulting and a certified internal family systems coach and practitioner. Today, we'll explore why so many of us live in a constant state of pressure, what it's doing to our minds and bodies, and practical ways to restore balance, reconnect with ourselves, and respond to life's challenges with greater clarity and resilience. Let's begin. Anna, something that so many of us have in common right now is that life is just a lot. I hear that term a lot. Do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overwhelms just become the background noise of our modern life. We wake up already thinking about everything that needs to be done, and somehow it just never feels like enough. I feel like we end up living on autopilot, trying to get through the day. I'd love to talk about this chronic state of overwhelm and why so many people are experiencing it, and what can we do about it? From your perspective, what are your thoughts and why so many people are living this way?
It's such a good question. And each time I think about this, because it's with me often, I have new perspectives. And I'm finding that I tend to look at it from a few different angles. I'll suggest this is just a world according to Anna. I believe that the pandemic torqued a lot of nervous systems, like permanently. I really do. I think there's a fear of the unknown or the inability to really feel safety and trust. Kind of that concern of what else is right around the corner that I need to be concerned about. To me, it feels like that somehow shifted us into a new normal. And I may not be right about that, but there's like kind of a heightened state of fear and concern.
Yeah.
So what I would say is I believe we've normalized living beyond our nervous system's capacity. And that has been really a point of reflection for me. We might call it productivity or responsibility or success, while our bodies are experiencing it as a chronic, like 24/7 activation, so that we're constantly taking in more than we can process. We're taking information and decisions and expectations. And I believe all of that and the uncertainty that I talked about, I think is accumulating faster than we can metabolize it.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I feel the same way. Someone said to me, "Is it me? It used to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
How come everything feels so hard? There's just so much going on." And I would add to this conversation by saying environmentally, the state of our country, or what people are experiencing as a result of this friction that we're feeling is adding to the overwhelm.
Yes, I think you're right. And I think within what you're saying, Enza, is many of us have quietly shifted from living intentionally to simply managing life. So instead of asking what matters most or what's here now, we're asking what's next. That's when we begin to live kind of in that autopilot rather than from the presence that we've been talking about.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some of the things that can contribute. And one of them is boundaries or lack of. And I wonder if many of us are worried about having boundaries and what that'll do to my work. Well, they're going to think that I don't care, or in terms of relationships, if it's family, well, I have to show up this way. I can't say no. So I know you and I have talked a lot about the no and what that means.
Well, yeah, we sure have. Because whenever you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Somebody said that to me a very long time ago, and I never forgot it. Could be
Mm.
saying no to myself and my needs, or robbing from Peter to pay Paul in terms of how I spend my time. And seems like there's some hidden contributors and some not so hidden contributors. I think this information overload that I mentioned, I think there's a decision fatigue. There's like so much to handle and figure out, or it seems like it's more, and that combined with that chronic uncertainty that I spoke of, while living up to the expectation that we should be able to handle it all. So, I mean, those are the not so hidden. I think hidden wise, I think we've normalized living beyond our nervous system's capacity, as I mentioned. So, if we're taking in more than we can metabolize, we've almost become, I think addicted is a strong word, but we've become accustomed at least to the urgency. And we're almost trying to outrun our parts of ourselves that desperately need our attention. If I keep moving, then I won't notice that I'm exhausted, and parts of me are going, hey, wait a minute, can I slow us down a little bit? I don't know how that lands with you.
Yeah, it lands great because when you said urgency,
Mm,
what I thought about was everything seems to be right now urgent. And a lot of that is because things are so much more automated, and we expect immediate results. We expect immediate answers.
yeah.
And so we don't expect that we can give space
Yeah.
to ourselves. Well, no, I have to do that right now. Or if there's a need, if there's an expectation, we've got to meet it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me think about a conversation that's come up often, and that is giving time to ourselves. And it looks different for different people, but giving ourselves the space to regroup,
Mm,
to rejuvenate, to recoup from a particularly bad day or a circumstance that's going on in our life.
yeah.
When we don't allow ourselves that,
Yeah.
it's not 100% what I would call boundary, but it does commingle with self care and taking the time to have silence or to do something that's joyful or relaxing so that we can respond in kind. Right. Okay. Yeah. You were going to say something. I
No,
see.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
restorative and always on nervous system that rarely experiences true rest, even if it's literally just for a few minutes here and there. When people say, I'm going to put my feet up for a few minutes, I think that's
Uh-huh.
great. Could be 7 or 8 minutes. It's not sustainable. And it's why I often am fascinated when I learn about the neuroplasticity of our nervous system, because this is burned in for a lot of people. My nervous system doesn't know it any other way. And that lack of true rest, you don't get the renewal that you're talking about, the rejuvenation from that kind of taking a break.
I think about when we eat lunch, when we eat breakfast, particularly if you're working. People do take, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. I see you making the motions to quickly eat, get it down because I need to get to the next or the meet,
Right.
or you're eating on mute while you're in a meeting. Um,
Yeah.
and it does something to our system because we're not taking the time to get that rest. And that rest, I love how you said that it does take different forms.
Mm-hmm.
It can be that 5 minute, it can be that 1 minute, it can be a half an hour, it can be, well, I'm taking a day off. I remember in IT, there was a time when they came up with part of your PTO was just to take rest days.
Mm,
They
nice.
recognized that people were so overwhelmed. There were so many not just expectations, but demands of having
Mm.
to meet all these deadlines,
Yeah.
which is common,
Yeah.
that people were just getting really burnt out. And it's happening today still.
Mm.
And so the company wanted to give people permission to take a day, just take a day of mental health.
Right.
And what you said earlier, not a lot of people did because they didn't feel they could.
That's right. Or people were, but they wouldn't like name it. They would just say under their breath to their friend, "I'm taking a mental health day." And so it sounds like that company normalized it. Like let's be real. It's not just for physical health. If you're not well and have congestion from a cold, there are times when you just need a break. And I love that. Or, the companies even go ahead and label it and make it a thing versus it kind of being below the radar. Because that contributes. I think that coupled with the poor sleep that so many people have. So then you've got the cycle. You're not taking breaks during the day and you're not really getting a good break at night when you're supposed to sleep a third of your, day is supposed to be sleeping. And that's just laughable for most people, except it's not funny. Your system is not getting recharged. It's just not sustainable. It'll find its way in somehow and you'll feel the effects of it. So, and we have the lingering effects of the recent years of just global disruption and things feeling like they're going sideways in our world.
Yeah. I pulled something out that I wanted to read, and because I found it interesting that high achievers often treat rest like a reward that you get after the work is done.
Mm.
But the truth is, rest is part of the work. I thought that line was fascinating.
Yeah.
It's the invisible ingredient that makes everything else possible. And it listed that Steve Jobs, as an example, was known to take long walks for creative breakthroughs.
Mm.
He
Mm-hmm.
didn't just allow himself that, he made it part of his work, part of his existence. And athletes, they schedule rest days.
Yep.
I mean, those who have played sports and are in athletics, they know you have to strategically plan the rest days
That's
as
right.
part of the training.
That's right.
And then even when we're ill, we know that part of recovery is rest.
Yeah.
Because without the rest, your body will not recover. And when we sleep at night, that is the time for the body to rejuvenate.
Mm.
And there's been studies done about making sure that your lights are off, that it's as dark as it can be, so that you can fully rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if you think about a yoga class, many people do yoga once in a while, and there's Shavasana at the end. And it's about integration, just to be still. It's not the time to take a nap per se. There is stillness and rest, but there's an integration. And I don't know that we are integrating enough as well. So that can, I think, contribute to the overwhelm. I think that as you say that, and I think most people assume that they're overwhelmed because they have too much to do, which is true many times. Often they're overwhelmed in addition because they have too little recovery, too little presence, and too little space to just simply be. And I think people may underestimate this bit that we're talking about, the pit stops, the respites in between the doing.
So let's talk about pragmatics. Let's talk about reality. All right, I'm in work and I start my day probably racing to work somehow. If I've got kids, I'm taking care of the kids. If I've got to catch a train, I'm running to it. If I got to get into traffic, now I've got to make sure that I either get on the road early enough or brace myself to be in the traffic, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's just say I'm home and that is my life. Either I'm taking care of little ones or I'm taking care of a parent. What does rest look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's why I really am such a proponent for these little pit stops, is what I would say. Because there's no easy answer, and there's not a one size fits all, of course. So I think about the years when I was running a youth camp, and my whole body was almost buzzing from the minute my feet hit the floor at 6 a.m. till probably midnight. It was really, really nonstop. So it was a great example. And there'd be times where I'd go to my room to get something and whatever, freshen up. And I would just say, I think I'm going to lie here for just like 8 minutes. I have 8 minutes before dinner. And it was amazing how it literally recharged me. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it really was a survival technique for me. Otherwise, I literally didn't stop from input and people needing things and coordinating for a lot of hours. That's a lot of hours in one day. So I just really believe that we underestimate just stop and pause. It's amazing what that does. So that to me, I'm a big proponent of that for that reason.
Yeah. The other thing coming to mind is when we talk about overwhelm, it could be the number of demands we have on ourselves. But there is something else. We sort of touched on it earlier, and that is the state of affairs around us, the environment.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on some workshops and calls where it is very real that people are feeling overwhelmed and stressed, almost as though they don't have control.
Mm.
And so right there, they feel like there's an overwhelming stress because I don't have control over this
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that comes up is media and watching the news because they're so available to us. They're so available.
Yes.
When we look at social media and you turn the news on now and it's the tickers are constantly going with something else. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. And I think I would add to it by saying, if I put an IFS lens on it, internal family systems, the overwhelm is often a signal that different priorities within us are competing for attention. One part wants to achieve or produce or get things accomplished. Another part wants rest. Still another may want some certainty in a world of uncertainty. Another doesn't want to disappoint others, let people down. So we have this kind of tug of war and these polarizations in so many different directions. And I believe that is part of the stress and exhaustion that we feel. There's an energy drain from that. And I think the risk can be that we can sometimes we identify with our busiest, loudest inner voice, instead of noticing all of that cacophony with curiosity. We believe it. I just have to keep going. I can't slow down. If I stop, everything will fall apart. And I think that's probably where a lot of people are. Caregivers in particular don't feel like they really can stop. They've just got to keep moving. I can't slow down.
Yeah. And caregivers is a wide range of people. The definition could be you're caring for a parent, you're caring for your children or a spouse.
Yeah.
And it could also slip into or extend rather to the workplace and the people that are under your responsibility or within your responsibility.
Yeah.
So you're caregiving there too, depending
right.
on your mindset, but you have a responsibility to their livelihood or, their next review or something like that.
That's right.
And what they're getting paid. Yeah. So if you were to put that IFS lens on, what would be the first thing or one thing that people could begin to think about when they think about the different parts that come up and, oh no, I can't stop. I can't stop. And I'm not supposed to stop. What are you talking about?
That's a great question. I think from that lens, to consider something to think about is that overwhelm isn't just about what's on your calendar and your external world. It's about the relationship you have with the voices inside you and all those competing priorities that I talked about and that are all trying to run your life. So I think I believe one of the richest part is like if we are trying to outrun the parts of ourselves that are desperately needing our attention, that is really where so much of this exhaustion is coming from.
Hmm.
So I think it's what you said earlier too. Busyness can become like an unconscious strategy. If I stay busy enough, I don't have to feel what's waiting for me when things get quiet. And, maybe people aren't afraid of slowing down. They're more afraid of what slowing down might reveal. There might, and this does get more into the psychological parts, but it's there. There may be grief or loneliness or fear of abandonment or disappointment or shame, emptiness, all those things that we may put off attending to. So I got to keep being a human doing. Then I don't have to keep running towards success as I define it. Then I don't need to feel what might come burbling up if I were to slow down and sense that.
You know what came up as you were saying that was so many stories about people that finally get to retire. It's happened in our families, relatives, friends. I see it on LinkedIn where they finally get to, all right, I'm going to reap the rewards of all the years of toil, all the years that I put into this work. And something happens to their physical body and they can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I would say there's value in starting to slow the system down, not necessarily all the things we have to do, but start to slow down our system while we can, while we're able to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really well said. I mean, it's striking how many people become uncomfortable even within minutes of silence. So overwhelm can almost be a protective mechanism. As long as I stay noisy and busy, I don't have to listen to the quieter voices within. We might reach for our phone or turn on a podcast or answer another email or start a new project or something. So the silence itself isn't the problem. It's what that silence might introduce to us. So I better just keep busy. That's a way of thinking about it. I'm not saying that's the only cause of all this, but I do, I guess I consider, Enza, what if overwhelm isn't only something that happens to us? What if at times it's also something that we're unconsciously participating in because it keeps us from facing what most needs our attention? Just something to consider.
So what would you say is the first thing that somebody can do to bring awareness?
Well, I think it's probably slow down and look,
Okay.
which is probably sounding overly simple or repetitive with what we've said. The willingness to stop and have that picosecond that we talked about in our previous podcast, to be able to just stop and notice.
Yeah.
Just practice stillness. I think that may sound something, I don't even know, trite or something, but to understand what the implications are and what the benefits and gifts are from slowing down, they'll actually be more productive and possibly more, a sense of more fulfillment if they can actually slow down enough to notice what's going on. But that, I don't know, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that.
Yeah. Yesterday I was talking to someone and this person brought up the Navy. I believe it was the Navy, if I'm not mistaken. And it's understood their level of consciousness directly impacts their ability to make decisions.
Mm.
And so it's really important, in my observation, that people, myself, all of us, take the time to have a mini vacation. And it's going to look different to different people. And it should. Because what one person feels like rest, the next person might not. But nonetheless, making a commitment to just step back and watch. That's part of the mindfulness practices too, is just, so I love what you said. That's perfect. Just making the commitment to stop.
Mm.
And there's seconds, it can be seconds. We used to talk about this with my staff about being in an uncomfortable meeting.
Mm.
And what's a strategy you can use to regroup, get your thoughts together about what you're going to say next because
Yeah.
it's not going well.
Yeah.
And taking the moment to take the breath. Nobody really needs to know what you're doing in that moment.
Hmm.
You're consciously taking a breath. You're watching it come in and you're watching it go out. And you've decided to stop and watch what's going on inside you
Hmm.
so that you can prepare for the next. Yeah, you're going to
No,
say,
that's right. I listen. I totally agree, as you know, and yet it sounds so counterintuitive.
ah,
You're going to be over
right?
the table at the staff meeting if you think you're going to risk losing that line item for your pet project or whatever. It revs you up. The very the very default is to get revved up, to worked up. Yet the best thing to be step back and just pause just for a nanosecond or two, and it's going to be, the boundlessness of how much more focused you can be by taking a very brief just step back and pause. It's very counterintuitive, though, what you're saying. I completely agree with it, though, as a strategy.
It's funny because it is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't think that it has that much power, but it does.
It does. And then I couple it with what you said out of the gate, which is the boundaries. To really notice, like, did you just volunteer for something else? Or did you just say you'd help with something when really in your heart you're already feeling overwhelmed? Which part of you made that choice? So to understand what we do sometimes and the ripple effect that it has, like, I just layered on that much more stress. Why am I doing that? You have to be able to stop and take a look at that. And I think that's hard for a lot of us. I don't know. It's almost in our society, it's just not rewarded. You're rewarded for being, maxed out and doing everything quickly and all this stuff that we say in our verbiage. I'll quickly do this. I'm just going to take a quick break.
We talked about that some time back. Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. I do it a lot, and I
Mm.
noticed it as soon as it was brought to my attention.
Mm.
Okay, let's have a quick talk, a quick drink, quick walk. Can I talk to you quickly? I won't take you much of your time, just a quick.
That's right.
And you're
That's
right,
right.
and it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And
It's
when I realized when someone brought it to my attention, or I actually was listening to something that brought it to my attention, I laughed out loud and thought, wow, I really do that
Mhm.
because I need to move faster. I need to get everything done. I don't want to take too much of someone's time. So let me make sure they know that I know I'm going to make it quick.
That's right. That's right. And it's the whole optics, like, under this, which we're not saying, is if you have time on your hands, that means you're not working and you're a slouch. Maybe you're lazy. So there's this stuff underneath that can, like, nibble at the reason why you have to always appear busy or seem like you've got a lot to do. Because, culturally, that's not thought well of. If you have time on your hands, what are you doing? So it's a funny, we subscribe to that, though, as a culture. That's a very big piece.
When I was mentioning earlier about Steve Jobs and how he integrated a walk every day
Yeah.
for the purposes of coming back to
Mhm.
himself and allowing the creativity to flow. He made it a point to
Nice.
stop. And
Yeah,
I found that really encouraging. And yet, so many of us don't feel like we have the permission to do that.
that's right. Or I don't have time to, and yet you can't afford not to if you want some innovation and creativity in whatever you do. And the risk could be in this scenario that you've described. You have to go on my walk now because this is my creative time. Like, if it gets too burdened, you may not have the stuff that kind of seeps in when you really aren't thinking about anything and you're noticing a beautiful set of flowers or watching the rabbits scamper, and all of a sudden, oh, wow, where did that come from? Well, it's because you gave your brain a rest, and things come in when we stop bearing down. It's, again, another paradox, I think, of the work that we're talking about. Yeah.
So, if we were to summarize, what can we do? We talked about a few things today. We talked about boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and really paying attention to how we answer to a request or something we think we're supposed to be doing. really pay attention to what does that actually mean, and can I really take that on right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we talked about rest being a big one, not just sleep. Sleep is a big one
Right.
though. So sleep,
It's the mini vacations
yeah,
that you call. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
allowing ourselves the time to sleep.
Just a
And not because it's a reward, but because our bodies and minds and spirit need the time to refresh and
That's right.
regroup.
Yeah.
And then the mini vacations during the day,
Yeah.
throughout the day, which we will put under the umbrella of rest.
Mm-hmm.
What else did we say? The mindfulness practices, which are part of the rest,
Mm-hmm.
reduces our anxiety, makes us more present.
Yeah.
And those are the minute vacations, and those are the specific times that we take
Yes.
to allow the mind or body to rest.
Yes. And you can easily, I can hear myself in my previous life saying, I don't have time for all that wonderful stuff. And I say, not only do I say you can't afford not to find the time, but I also say, are there ever times when you're sitting in traffic or waiting in a checkout line, and sometimes you can go ballistic because I don't have time for this? That's a good time to try it.
Wow.
To try a mini practice when you are waiting and you thought it was going to be the shortest line to check out. Now suddenly there's something going on. Like, yep, here's a good time to take a break. Go do your little mini break right now. Try your breathing. Just try to see what you can do to come back and notice. So I think there are spots in our day, even if we don't feel like we have space for it.
That's perfect, Anna. I've actually done that many times. It's fascinating
Mm,
how it changes not just how you're thinking, but it changes your body,
absolutely.
right? You're in a
Absolutely.
line, you know you've got to get somewhere, and now the person in front of you, they have something, an item that has to be checked. It's now going to take a lot longer.
Yep.
And you decide to take a deep breath and say, all right, this is where I'm going to be right now.
Yeah. And it's good to notice the things we don't always notice is, oh, I've just been clenching my teeth for the last 20 minutes during this visit, or whatever it is. I shared with you that when I went to the dentist last week, I don't have a fear of dentists. I'm grateful for that. I've never had a problem with a dentist. Yet when everything gets started in there and all the buzzing and whirring and stuff, water flying and all, I catch myself, my entire body. So I said, okay, here's a good practice field here. I have nothing to worry about. There's nowhere I need to go or nothing I need to do. And I watch myself one by one, focus from head to toe and relax. So I think there are spots everywhere if we want to pay attention and consider those as opportunities for this.
I love that. Thank you. That
You're
really, that was a perfect way to end
welcome.
today's conversation. We can find opportunities, especially the ones that we think are not the times.
Right.
Those are the times to take a moment's rest.
Yep. That's good. Very
And
good.
all
Thank
of
you.
this, thank you also. It ties into our overwhelm and just tips on what we can do in our everyday
Yeah.
to strategize to overcome the
Yeah.
feeling of overwhelm.
Yeah. That's it. Well said. Mm,
Anna, it's been a delight again to have a
likewise.
conversation that's just so meaningful today.
Thank you.
And Anna continues to be a coach and work with IFS, Internal Family Systems. And you can reach her at counterbalanceconsulting.org. Any final thoughts?
No, I think you've covered it. I think this has been delightful. Thank you again.
Thank you. Until next time. Thank you for listening to The Power of Calm. Your presence here matters. If you felt a shift today, imagine what we'll uncover next. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. For more inspiration and to connect with me, visit envisionwithenza.com. Until next time, may you find clarity to see what matters, the confidence to trust yourself, and the calm to move forward with purpose.